All right, welcome back to Unleashed, the most legit Celtics podcast in the game. We finally have the NBA season coming back, and if you're like me, you're going to have a big old smile on your face for this episode because of that. I want us to think about just a couple months ago when we're thinking, how is this going to work? Is the NBA season ever coming back? Does the season now have an asterisk next to it? All of these unanswerable questions we finally have some sort of confirmed answer to. Now, I will say all of these dates that we're going to touch on, even the format and the plan in place, is all tentative. The NBA obviously has said, if God forbid another outbreak of coronavirus hits or another player tests positive, all this can change, which makes complete sense. But if you hadn't heard, the NBA season comes back July 31st, a 22-team format in Orlando, all in one central location. And we're gonna kind of break it down in simpler terms, because if you're like me, originally you kind of tried to soak up as much information as you could on this return, but still at the end of the day, you're kind of like, okay, I feel like there's a lot of moving parts. I'm not exactly sure how this is gonna work, but basketball's back. So I've done some research, I've done some pre-work here, and I hope I can clarify and put it in the simplest terms in terms of how this is going to work. So first thing I want to do is talk about that July 31st date. I've seen all over social media and other big shows saying, why are they waiting so long? That's 2 months away. They couldn't expedite this? Let me tell you this, and this is just from a personal standpoint. As an out-of-shape, over-the-hill ex-basketball player, way washed up, the amount of times that, my buddies have been like, hey, let's go play some pickup basketball, and I go and do that, my body is literally out of commission for weeks after that. Now imagine doing that on an NBA level, during coronavirus, during the quarantine. These players, some of them haven't worked out, some of them haven't touched a ball, certainly haven't played 5-on-5 competitive NBA level basketball. Them wanting, and Chris Paul, I think, did the right thing in leading the charge for the players here, them wanting that sort of, 7 weeks to prepare to get their bodies right, I think is the right decision. I think it's going to be a better product. I think, if they just jumped right back into it at the drop of a hat, there could be some injuries just because guys' bodies aren't right. So I don't hate the date. Yes, it might hinder some of the, following dates, the NBA draft, the start of the next season. Sure, it is like a 2-month delay in a sense, but these guys got to get right. And if us fans want the product, and we're going to kind of dig into what I believe this product is going to be like later on in the show, but if we want the product to be as good as can be, I think these guys need that time to get their bodies right, to get their game right, and to really just prevent any sort of injury. So, like I said, I don't hate the date. I've been in a position, way lower level, in a position where, I just try and start playing basketball again at the drop of a hat. Yikes. That's what I'll say. Yikes. So I don't hate that these guys did request and did decide on, and I believe this whole format, 29 out of 30 teams agreed and voted for this format. So it's pretty interesting to see that it was almost unanimous. But let's get into breaking down what this is going to be, how it's going to work, and I'm going to try and do it in dum-dum terms. As a self-appointed dum-dum, I think I can do this pretty well. I'm going to try and cut out the fluff and just give you the meat and potatoes here. So, obviously you have the 16 teams that were currently, when the season closed, currently in the playoff race. Those 16 teams are coming back. I'll give you those right now. It's the Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Heat, Pacers, 76ers, Nets, Magic, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Jazz, Thunder, Rockets, Mavericks, and Grizzlies. On top of those 16 teams, we have 6 additional teams joining them. In the East, it's just the Wizards. And in the West, it's the Trailblazers, Pelicans, Kings, Spurs, and Sun. Now, this is all based on who has the potential to make it into the playoffs. And as we know, the East was pretty much, a runaway in terms of the playoff seeding. That's why there's only the Wizards that have the chance. The West is a little bit more close, so there is 5 teams in the West fighting for a spot. So you have these 22 teams, and they're playing games. Across all of these teams, they're going to be playing like 5 to 6 games per day, which is wild. It's going to be pretty awesome as a huge NBA fan. So each of these teams are going to play 8 more regular season games. Now, those are going to obviously determine standings. Things could shift around towards the bottom of the seedings. And then at the end of those 8 games, we're going to see the top 7 teams in each conference, the East and the West. So 14 teams automatically make it into the playoffs. The standard playoff format like we've seen in the past and like we'll see in the future. The other teams, as long as the 8-9 race is within, I believe, 4 games, they're going to have a play-in tournament to determine the 8th seed in the East and the 8th seed in the West. That's pretty interesting. Obviously, if these 8 games go on and there's no chance, obviously the Magic say they blow out the Wizards, and the Grizzlies do nothing but improve, and there's no race. Both of those 8 seeds are, I believe, over 4 games ahead of the 9th seed. No play-in tournament, no play-in tournament at all. They'll just jump right into a standard playoff format. So I hope that makes sense. We're going to see the top 7 teams in each conference right into the playoffs, and we're waiting on that play-in tournament, which I think would be really cool for the 8th seed, as long as it's within reach. Again, I think it's if you are 4 games, so paint this picture. If the Grizzlies are 4 games ahead of the Trailblazers, they might not need to play in. Maybe it's 4.5 games, but if that 9th seed is within that 4-game span to the 8th seed, we will have a play-in tournament for that spot. So it's pretty cool. And from there, it's normal now. I think the league has announced that this is in order to try and eliminate the idea of we got to put an asterisk next to the season. Sure, you probably can still make the argument that no matter what you do, there's got to be an asterisk next to this season because of what happened. But they're going straight into normal playoff style once they have those eight teams in each conference. You're going to have the 7-game series that we're normally accustomed to, and I guess that's just their best bet in terms of trying to make things as normal as possible once you get to the point. So I like it. I don't hate it. I think that, and like I said, we're going to talk about the unfairness of it. I don't hate it. I think it's the best they could do. There's no way to make this a perfect situation. There's no way to totally remove the asterisks from the season. You just can't do it. But anyone trying to say, oh, it's super unfair for those 8 teams or those that 8th seed and the lower teams, but no kidding. You had more than half a season to try and better your playoff standing. It's not unfair. This is the same season. You had plenty of games to try and get the privilege of being towards the top of your conference. So I don't want to hear national televised games, stuff like that. It's going to be super unfair. I've had it with that because, sure, it might be unfair, but guess what? The Lakers playing the Grizzlies in the first round is technically unfair. It's the 1 versus 8th seed. It's the most unfair matchup, and it's like that across all sports. They're not meant to be fair. You're supposed to be rewarded for playing well in the regular season, which, again, you had plenty of games to do. So the fact that people are trying to say, Zion's in the 10 seed and they're going to want to see Zion versus LeBron, so they might have more nationally televised games and play better teams. Well, what are you going to do? We want a good product. We want to see good teams play good teams. You had plenty of games to try and get rewarded based on your regular season standing. So I want to put this is an unfair format to bed because, for one, there's no way to make it fair. 2, the NBA playoffs are not fair anyways. The worst team plays the best team in normal years without an asterisk, without coronavirus. And then 3, it is what it is. There's no way to make this, the perfect tournament. The only thing I could say is kind of weird. I'm not going to use the term unfair, but the only thing that's weird is that the Wizards have to, fight one team for that 8th spot, and then the West has to fight, they have 6 people in the mix, or 6 teams in the mix. But again, it all comes down to what did you do prior to this all happening? It's based on something. It's not like they just picked names out of a hat and said, all right, now go fight for the 8th seed. But I want to talk about the product and what we're going to see here because, sure, the NBA season's back. It's super exciting, right? Well, if you're not a huge NBA fan, if you're not a huge fan of one of these teams, I don't think you're going to be thrilled with this product. There's nothing worse than, being a casual fan and watching the Summer League, right? You hear the balls bouncing, you hear the rim rattle, and you hear the worst sound in the world, the sneakers screeching on the ground. That is probably what we're going to see during this, what should be explosive and exciting tournament-style playoff format, return of the NBA that we have. So I think, I'm almost challenging casual fans to really get into this NBA return and really watch all the games because for people like me, this is going to be awesome. I don't care about the stands. I don't care about the crowds. I'll listen to the sneakers squeak on the floor all day long as I have NBA basketball back. But I don't know if that's going to be the same for everyone. I really don't. I think that this is going to be most comparable to Summer League basketball, only with a lot more on the line. Like, the one thing is, you don't see LeBron playing Summer League. Sure. I mean, that's the argument, and it's a great argument. It's a fair argument, but I don't see this being that sort of momentous, like, crowd cheering, and everyone's in their home court and whatnot, and obviously no one has home court here. It's not going to be the same thing, and I do think it might have more of like an all-star vibe early on. Like, I don't know if players are going to be able to get into it. I would hope they can, and honestly, I would assume they will. I don't think it's going to be different for the players, but just the actual consuming of the games and watching it, I think it's going to be a little weird for fans. Yeah, it's a little interesting because, you know, I've seen talks about pumping and crowd noise and whatnot. None of that makes sense to me. I don't know how you can make this realistic. I don't. So we shall see. But I wanted to go over a couple more dates here too. And this is the only thing I was talking about. I said that this could technically, the fact that they're starting so late, July 31st, could kind of hinder what is to come. The NBA Finals should finish with this new format, finish no later than October 12th, if all goes according to plan. The lottery will be August 25th. The NBA draft will be October 15th. And then the start, this is the weird part. This is the real weird part. The start of the 2021 season, December 1st. That's weird in the fact that, one, it's so late, and two, if the NBA Finals, two of these teams are going to be playing till mid-October, that's only a month and a half to get ready for the season? That doesn't make sense at all to me. I don't know what they're going to do there. That's the one argument I could say in terms of waiting these 2 months to jump right back into it. It's going to make it a lot tougher. But it is what it is. That is the return of the NBA. I hope that helps some of you guys, and I hope it's a little bit more clear now, because when I first heard about it, I did some research, tried to look into the teams there, and it was a little confusing. It's weird that only 22 teams are coming back, but like the point I already harped on enough, you had more than enough time during the regular season prior to coronavirus hitting for your team to be, you know, invited into this and to have the eligibility to play. If your season was long gone, it's long gone. That wasn't this issue. It was the fact that you didn't win enough games while you were playing a normal schedule, and it is what it is at this point. So thank you guys very much for watching or listening. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and like the video. Comment down below what you think of this format. Do you like it? Is it going to be weird for you? And do you think this is going to be like Summer League basketball, like I said? If you are listening on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere, make sure you are subscribed, leaving reviews, following along, and helping us out. It really does a lot and helps us build the community each and every episode. Until next time, guys.